You're gonna dial. Yeah, be careful moving it around, because I think that's what's going on, we're moving this thing around.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID. You are in the meeting now. You are the first participant. Please stand by. This meeting is being recorded.
Item 3, confidential minutes. The board approves the confidential minutes of February 22nd. With that, if you could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll move on to public matters not on the agenda, discussion items only, no action to be taken. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject within the jurisdiction of the Amador County Board of Supervisors. However, any matter that requires action may be referred to staff and or committee for a report recommendation for possible action at a subsequent board meeting. There is a 3-minute time limit. Is there any public comment at this time? Beatty, are you coming up for public comment? Good morning.
Good morning, Chuck Bader. Good morning.
Are we on there? Okay.
There we go, we're live.
There you go.
Excuse me. I just wanted to let everybody know or put out a reminder that the county and its 5 cities are working on our joint housing element updates for a general plan. And there's going to be a workshop for the public and housing stakeholders here in the board chambers and available via teleconference this Thursday. We're going to do that workshop twice, once at 2:30, once later in the afternoon. It's going to be the same workshop. People won't have to attend both of those. The purpose of the housing element is to ensure that local governments do their part as far as providing adequate zoning and adequate housing policies to accommodate housing growth as determined by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And between now and 2029, they anticipate that the county as a whole will need 741 new housing units, with 377 of those being in the unincorporated areas, and the rest are divided amongst the cities. So if we have adequate zoning in place, we have adequate policies that don't deter housing growth and can accommodate those. We're not required to build anything, but we are required to have policies in place in the event somebody does want to build those units. So that workshop will be Thursday at 2:30, then again at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
One
you.
more thing, can you address there was a request by the applicant in the George Reed use permit change request to move the hearing back for their own reasons. I guess they wanted to work with some of the property owners and discuss it more with them, but can you talk about that, how it's a normal practice if an applicant makes a request like that?
So in that case, we had sent out a notice mail notice for the public hearing. And fortunately, in that case, the applicant let us know adequately ahead of time for us to renotice the hearing, but they did request a continuance, or for that matter to be postponed to another hearing, or excuse me, to another date. It's, at least in my experience, it's always been the Planning Commission's practice to honor those requests. Better that it was done, you know, several weeks before the hearing, rather than right after the hearing, which is how it usually goes. Then that can be quite an inconvenience to everyone. As far as, you know, from staff publishing the packet to the public that shows up to a meeting that's actually not going to occur, or a hearing that's not going to occur.
And yes, it is an inconvenience to people who had planned on coming that date, but that's why we give advance notice, so as much as possible to provide for less inconvenience, and so that people know that it's going to be held off. And it is a normal practice. We're not working with the applicant to make the use permit change happen, other than the things staff normally do.
Staff's here to process the application and get, you know, and prepare adequate mitigation measures and put it in front of the Planning Commission for a decision. We're not project advocates by any means. And in this case, I did renotice the hearing, and when I did renotice the hearing, I put 2 dates on that hearing notice, so that caused additional confusion. That's entirely my fault, my typo, so I will have to renotice the hearing one more time.
Well, we'll have to.
And that hearing will be May 10th at 7 p.m.
We'll have to give you a demerit for that.
Chuck, one,
Well deserved.
back to the housing element, there were 2 meetings. What time was the second one? I don't think you gave the second.
5:30.
Okay, so 2:30 and 5:30.
Yes, sir.
He mentioned that.
Okay, Jeff, did you have public
No,
comment?
that's something else.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have received notice from, Kirkwood Mountain Resort that, the mountain for skiing will stay open until May 1st.
Wow.
This will be the first time they've ever extended their, skiing season up till May 1st.
Any other board member comments?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead, Supervisor Neto.
yeah, something else that's, becoming more and more of an issue. It's been an issue for quite a while, but, the homeless deal, something the county does not have enough wherewithal, funds, people to, address it adequately. And I think the board should start, petitioning our governor, maybe even our president. I think the feds in the state have to step in and, help with that. I mean, whether it's mental health institutions, more of them. It's a big problem. Like, you had a fire out the other day right off, the grade between the Argonaut and Kennedy mine, burnt down with historic buildings, which, okay, it was a small building, but still part of our history. And if you start having they had a burn barrel inside a building, and it caught on fire, burnt the building down. And I guess the point I'm making, you get a fire like that in summer, some bad conditions, it may not be just the building that's burned down, it might be the town. So I think we should probably, on a future agenda, how much effect it'll have, I don't know, but we gotta start, beating on that drum, just saying, hey, state and feds, you gotta start doing something. Go down to Stockton, Sacramento. When I was a kid, I remember seeing one homeless person under an overpass, and it was a big deal. Now there's cities everywhere. Just a thought.
We are getting quite a bit of money. It's just we're getting some opposition now. Supervisor Axe, I don't want to turn this into a full-fledged discussion, but some opposition to the proposal for a housing complex, near, actually not very close to Sutter Creek, but up on top, near Walgreens. So maybe we can include that as part of the update also.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay. Mr. Riley, next agenda, can you put that on and include the information on where we're at with the proposal to place it's a homeless facility, but also a facility for those people at risk of homeless.
That's
Right,
transitional.
correct, Supervisor Axe?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. Thank you. I have one thing. I would just like to encourage all the candidates that are running for office to place their signs where they are allowed legally to be, and to check the city ordinances as to what size signs can be placed within the city ordinances. I've already, I kind of take pride when I run for election to do the right thing. And if I see something wrong with my signs, I correct it. So I'd like the candidates to try and be aware of the rules out there. If you're running for office, especially for supervisor or sheriff, you should try and abide by the rules that are in place. All right, any other comments?
Haven't placed any signs yet.
Me either.
But they're all available on the city's websites.
That's right.
It's easy to find them.
No, it is, I would agree with that, and, I guess technically they don't have to abide by it, but I wish all candidates, including the sheriffs, had abided by the 90-day,
Technically, they don't have to abide by it, but technically the city can, instruct them to take the signs down, or the city can take the signs down.
No, I was talking about the county has a deal, we request signs, until 90 days before the election.
Yeah.
And legally, yeah, freedom of speech, whatever, you can put signs up on your own property, whenever, however, I do defend that, but, I just hate seeing the sign wars too early.
Actually, that's incorrect. If a city has an ordinance, or like the county has an ordinance, you need to abide by those ordinances. Now, I guess we can take that one and fight it out in court, but, you know, really, you should just be looking at the rules that are in place and abiding by those.
That's what I was saying, and I thought, Greg, I thought we addressed that sign deal at one point, whether it's enforceable or not.
It's come up a couple times, not formally. It's probably not something we should talk about right here, but if you, I mean.
Good enough.
Okay, let's move on then. Any other public comment? Hearing none, then we'll go on to our approval of the agenda.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Moved by Supervisor Crew, is that second by Supervisor Neto?
Axe.
Yeah. Supervisor Axe, Crew, Axe. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda.
I have a couple things before we start that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. 6B and 6F, ratification terminating the, December 31st proclamation of a local emergency. Chuck, did you find anything more about that?
We need to pull that for now. I'm not sure. I'm not positive it's a problem, but let's just push it to the next, board meeting.
Okay.
And
So-
also,
Hold on just a second. You want to pull that item off then?
Pull it off, please, yes.
6B will be pulled then.
Gone, okay.
And which, you had one more, Supervisor?
I'm good.
6F, we accidentally listed it under Commission on Aging. That should be not Commission on Aging, but Area 12 Agency on Aging as the header. All the rest of it is good.
Greg, does that need to be pulled off?
I don't think there is there's not a separate commission on aging. It is the area.
We have a Commission on Aging and an Area 12.
Well, then we should probably bring it back.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll pull
Bring
that
it back or just
that's good.
announce?
Well,
That was.
no, you have the wrong action on the agenda.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't think unless it's just
We'll
a
pull 6F
typo, then we should.
off
pull
the
it.
agenda and, re-agendize it with the correct title on it.
Yes.
You can get appointed in time for the next meeting.
Okay, those two items. Supervisor Neto?
I'm good. Thank you.
You're good. All right, so, consent agenda with item 6B and item 6F hold off the agenda for, future agendas. So can I get a motion then?
So move.
Second?
Moved by Supervisor Brown, second by Supervisor Axe to approve the consent agenda with those two items pulled off to be re-agendized in the future. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for those, corrections on there. Put our regular agenda item 4A, update by the Amador County Health Officer, Dr. Rita Kerr, on the COVID-19 situation in Amador County.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me. At this point, I'm unable to start my video from my end.
Yeah, We got you, Dr. Kerr. Thank you.
Okay, great. Good morning, board
Good morning.
and Amador County residents. This is my monthly update now of the COVID-19 situation in Amador County. Overall, the COVID-19 activity continues to trend downward. The hospital impact situation has improved. Currently, there are 6 patients hospitalized at Sutter Amador due to COVID-19, and 4 of those are Amador County residents.
Dr. Kirk, you should be able to start your video right now. I'm
Okay, I
sorry.
can do that. That's all right. Here we go. Hopefully that worked. One of the 6 COVID patients at Sutter Amador Hospital is in the intensive care unit. And to date, 345 Amador County residents are known to have required hospitalization due to COVID-19 illness. Moving on to the epi curve, which if Jennifer or Heather could go ahead and put that up on the screen. That shows the laboratory confirmed cases in a bar graph format with confirmed cases in blue and then the probable cases on the green bars overlying. And you can see that the surge of cases peaked the week of January 16th through the 22nd. And we've had a steady downtrend since then. We're back to where we were pre-Omicron in late November. The pie charts, if she could bring that graphic up, show the geographic distribution of cases by the relative areas in the county. The one on the left is the cumulative totals, and then the one on the right are the active cases. Currently, we are down to 27 active cases in Amador County residents, and active cases includes confirmed cases by laboratory testing, probable cases, which are the supervised antigen tests, and then anything that comes into our electronic reporting system in suspect status. And we are still going to sort out whether they are confirmed and probable or probable. But the key point is being there are new cases that we have been informed about within the last 10 days. So still within that isolation period. The peak of our Amador cases occurred in mid to late January and was at greater than 600 for that 10-day period. So really significant decrease. Cumulatively, we are now at 5,900 lab confirmed cases in Amador County residents, excluding Mule Creek State Prison inmates. And year to date, we've had 1,728 lab confirmed and another 562 supervised antigen positive probable cases, most of which are in testing in the school system. They have a robust antigen testing program there, and 73% of the probable cases year to date have been in children. And that's why you'll see a relatively lower amount of confirmed cases in that age group. Our case counts on our graphics do not include unsupervised self-home tests, which are not required to be reported to public health. And I also want to point out that Mule Creek State Prison does have ongoing transmission of COVID among inmates, currently at 73 active cases, and they peaked at more than 400 active cases in mid-January. We are still at 1 confirmed case of pediatric multisystem inflammatory condition in children, and that was confirmed in late 2021. And I will point out that the death counts lag infections and hospitalizations usually by a few weeks. Since the last update 2 weeks ago, 6 more COVID-related deaths have been investigated, and 5 additional Amador resident deaths due to COVID-19 have been confirmed. 4 of those were females ranging in age from their 60s to their 80s, and 1 male in his 70s. The total confirmed death count to date is 75 Amador County residents and 9 Mule Creek State Prison inmates. And public health expresses sincere condolences to all who are mourning the loss of a loved one due to COVID-19. Being fully vaccinated and getting a booster when it's time is the safest way to prevent serious illness, hospitalizations, and death from COVID. Moving on to the vaccine update, COVID vaccines remain available and free for everyone age 5 and older. Greater than 54,600 doses of vaccine have been administered to Amador County residents, and 9,800 of those are booster doses. Our highest priority remains for those who are still unvaccinated to get protected. Overall, 29.6% of the population age 5 and older in Amador County have not had any doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Breaking down that by ages, who remain unvaccinated are 83% of 5 to 11-year-olds, 52% of 12 to 17-year-olds, 48% of 18 to 49-year-olds, 15% of 50 to 64-year-olds, and 5% of those age 65 and older. The average first doses given per day has slowed down over the past few weeks, and we're now averaging only 4 to 7 first doses per day to Amador residents. It is important also to complete the second dose of the 2-dose primary vaccine series to have the best protection against serious illness and hospitalization, and when it's time, get a booster to stay up to date. Those who are 65 and older and anyone over age 50 who has underlying illness are the most strongly advised to get their booster dose, as they are at the highest risk for severe COVID-19 illness and outcomes. Timing for the boosters since the prior dose or the last dose would be over 2 months for those who got J&J and over 5 months after the second dose for those who got Pfizer or Moderna for their primary series. And the mix and match option to choose a different vaccine for the booster than you received for your primary dose is available. No-cost COVID vaccine clinics continue to be held at the Health and Human Services Suite 500, that's the back entrance, on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. All 3 brands of the COVID vaccine are available for any dose, including for children and including for boosters. You may visit myturn.ca.gov to schedule an appointment at these vaccine clinics, or if you walk in, you must arrive before 5:30 p.m. and there are no walk-ins midday during the staff lunchtime. For boosters, please bring your vaccination card, a photo of it, or a digital record of it showing the dates of your previous doses and what you received. And some retail pharmacies are also continuing to offer COVID vaccines. Please check vaccines.gov for availability. Our COVID-19 mobile vaccination team did an outbound clinic last Tuesday, the 1st in the Shenandoah Valley. And now they are continuing to provide vaccination for homebound individuals who may schedule a nurse home visit by calling public health at 209-223-6407. Special considerations for immune compromised individuals. Those who have immune compromise should speak with your doctor about timing for additional vaccine doses. In some instances and in some conditions, a 4th dose of vaccine is being advised for those who are immune compromised. Another option for them would be a long-acting monoclonal antibody product. It's called Evusheld, which has emergency use authorization to prevent COVID-19 in severely immune compromised individuals who are not expected to mount an adequate response to vaccination, and that is administered by intramuscular injection, much like a vaccine. It lasts for about 6 months. This medication is now available at Sutter Amador Infusion Center by physician referral. Those who are immune compromised are strongly recommended to continue wearing a well-fitting mask with good filtration when they are indoors in public settings. Testing is another key layer of mitigation, and at-home options are available. You may visit covidtest.gov to order 4 free at-home tests per address, and starting this week, every home in the US may now order a second set of tests via the covidtest.gov website. If you test positive with an at-home test, please follow current self-isolation guidelines and inform your close contacts, especially your household contacts, to self-quarantine. The OptumServe no-cost testing site at the HHS building off Lower Ridge Road, the back entrance, is continuing to be open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Masks are required at Suite 500 for both vaccine clinics and testing clinics, as those, it's a healthcare site. Please register online for testing at lhi.care, or you may call 1-888-634-1123 to register for testing. Those with appointments are prioritized and walk-ins are accommodated as space allows. Outpatient treatments for COVID-19 are becoming more available. If you test positive for COVID-19 and are at risk for becoming very sick, don't delay seeking treatment, as it must be started within a few days to be effective. Antiviral pills that are taken by mouth can be prescribed for persons with mild to moderate symptoms who are at high risk, and that prescription must be started within 5 days of symptom onset. The monoclonal antibody treatments are available at our local hospital for high-risk individuals within 10 days of symptom onset. However, none of these emerging therapies are a substitute for vaccination. Prevention is the best medicine. As the latest surge in COVID-19 activity subsides, continue taking recommended steps to protect yourself, your loved ones, and others who are vulnerable. Get vaccinated and a booster when it's time. Indoors, maximize ventilation. When going to places where masks are no longer required, everyone is encouraged to assess their personal and family risks and may decide that wearing a mask is the right decision for them. In deciding, individuals should consider, do you or others in your household have underlying health conditions that create elevated risk for severe illness from COVID? Are there unvaccinated family members in the household, including young children who are not yet eligible to receive vaccine? And does anyone in the household work in a setting with vulnerable individuals who are at elevated risk for severe illness from COVID? Choose the most protective mask you can that fits well and that you will wear consistently. If you've been traveling in crowded places or know you've been exposed, get tested for COVID 3 to 5 days later. Anyone who feels ill, even with mild symptoms, should get tested and stay home while awaiting the results. If you don't feel great, please isolate. Are there any questions you'd like me to address at this time?
Thank you, Dr. Kerr. Just for clarification, in previous reports, you've always stated where we're at, high, medium, or low. I'm assuming we're low now, but where are we?
Well, the CDC has changed the metrics, and there's a couple things that play into their metrics. One of them is that they do not sort out the activity of the state prison inmates. And so with those 73 active cases out there, we still appear as red on the CDC map. If we went back to the old blueprint that the state used to have, we would be in the red zone for, not purple anymore, in the red zone for case count and in the orange zone for test positivity currently. So we are definitely trending the right direction.
Dr. Kerr, what's the status of like another booster in the fall? Is that in the works? Is that being planned? Is that going to happen, or is it just too early to tell?
It's still being studied what the necessity for that is and in which populations.
Will it be specific for newer variants, or I know they're testing
Again,
vaccines on
those
it.
vaccines that are variant specific are under development. And as you know, it's a challenge to keep up with, because when a variant emerges and we become aware of it, we start to see how much it's going to spread or not spread in any given population and community. But the vaccine manufacturers have to begin the reformulation process, and keeping up is a challenge. It's really a little bit early to predict exactly what the next rollout for the general population will be as far as additional doses. At this point, the focus is on those high-risk immunocompromised individuals to either get an extra dose or the long-acting monoclonal antibody injection.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Ornetto.
Yes, Dr. Kerr, you stated there's like 5,900 lab-confirmed cases. Probably a number of cases are substantially higher, would you say? Because a lot of times people get them, take the home test, and that's that. Any idea what that number is? If you had to hazard a guess?
There have been some studies that are called sero surveys, and at both selected counties in California. Amador was not enrolled as one of the counties, and on the national level. And there are some estimates that believe that at least 70% of the population at this point is immune or has immunity from either vaccination or prior infection, particularly right beyond this Omicron surge. It gives us some hope that at least for the near term, because again, we think that the durability of immunity following natural infection is at least 90 days. It may be longer. We know that the recall immunity persists longer. That's not the neutralizing antibodies, but the other T cells and B cells in the body that just need to get reactivated once your body's exposed to an infection. They may not prevent an infection from happening, but they lessen the severity and give your body a better chance of fighting it off more quickly. At this point, the estimates are at least 70% of the population with some form of immunity at this point.
One more question. Some people I was talking to, they're debating or talking about, does being vaccinated lessen your propensity to transmit it to others? And I looked at some information. I couldn't see anything really that would that was identified one way or another.
Yes, thank you for that question. And it does in two ways. Being vaccinated lessens your risk of contracting COVID-19 after an exposure in the first place, even in households where transmission rates are the highest because the close contact is the most intense. And then those who are infected and after vaccination, which is called a breakthrough infection, get lower peak levels of virus in their upper respiratory tract for a shorter period of time. So they are less contagious for a shorter period of time and less likely to spread it forward to others.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Kerr, one more question. Recently, I guess it was CDC that came out and said there were 3 types of test kits that were known to give false results. Were any of those ever in use by Amador County or other government agencies?
Not in our local area. One of the kits that I can recall off the top of my head that was actually last fall was Ellume, was giving some false results, and those were recalled. I did speak to one business here in the county who had purchased some of those before they were recalled, and they were frustrated, and I advised them to get a hold of the company and ask for a refund, and so that they could, potentially invest their precious resources in a reliable testing platform. But no, none of the tests that we've distributed here, which have primarily been the Binax Now, the iHealth tests, and then we've had some Care Start and Q tests. And the Care Start, the Binax, and the iHealth are all antigen test platforms. And the Q test is actually a point of care molecular test. And all of those are validated, performing well. And the state testing task force continues to monitor their performance by doing ongoing validation studies to correlate those tests to the PCR molecular laboratory tests and make sure that they continue to perform even with the emergence of variants.
Thank you. Any other board questions? Any public comment at this time? Anyone on Zoom? All right, Dr. Kerr, it looks like you got off easy today. So thank you again for a comprehensive report.
You're welcome.
A quick reminder that Dr. Kerr is not going to present at the second meeting of every month, so she'll be back with us on April 12th.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kerr. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 4B, presentation of a proclamation recognizing the month of March as Red Cross Month. And if you'd like to come up, please. But while you're doing that, I'm going to ask the board to approve this resolution.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Any just further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you. My name's Joanna Sim. I'm the community volunteer leader for the 3 motherlode counties of Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne. And this is my colleague, Jeff Dillon. Jeff is a resident of Sutter Creek. I'm a resident of Plymouth. We want to thank you for the proclamation on behalf of all the Red Cross volunteers here in Amador County. Red Cross has had a chapter in Amador for over 100 years. And we appreciate the collegial partnership with our government partners. By partnering with local fire departments, we have installed smoke alarms to make homes safer and provided safety education this past year. Local volunteers helped out with sheltering and temporary evacuation centers during the Caldor fire, warming center during the upcountry snow emergency, and also responded to 6 home fires in the past year, assisting the displaced clients, citizens. We want to thank you again for this honor and happy to be here and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Jeff, you have anything?
No, but we mobilized very quickly during the snowstorm up at Mace Meadows. Thanks, Jeff, for being there, and other community members. It seems like the county came together very quickly. And I don't think that was predicted, that ice storm that occurred. And so the Red Cross and other agencies collaborated, and we got those people warm and fed, so
It's very much appreciated from a lot of the people that are up there. They weren't expecting that big of a storm, and so it was definitely a, kick to the head type of situation. So very much appreciated all the work that your folks did and to keeping that area open.
It shows we can come together quickly when we have to, which is amazing.
Very much so, and it was very much appreciated. To add on to that, we're hopefully getting another generator at the Veterans Hall. It's a COVID generator. We don't know where it is, but hopefully we get it. We've got the part of the walls built to house it, and so I'd like to have you guys eventually evaluate it as a possible another center to your list. So if somebody could email me a point of contact so I could get with them when we're up and running, I would appreciate it.
Sounds good.
And speaking of COVID, as Dr. Kerr, you heard her presentation, we're still somewhat high, but our numbers are going down drastically. So in the event something might happen this summer, are you still going to have precautions in place for COVID at your relief centers?
I would say that's correct, yeah. I mean, Red Cross is on top of that from the national level, so they're very on top of what's going on with COVID. And they're kind of ahead of the, as far as preparing for that. So I'd say the answer is yes.
Definite protocols are in place.
Any other board questions? I'm going to go ahead and read. Do you have something, Supervisor Wright?
No.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution. A resolution recognizing the month of March as Red Cross Month, whereas in 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. And whereas today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of Red Cross volunteers here in Amador County who continue to carry out Clara's life-saving legacy. They join the millions of people across the United States who volunteer, give blood, donate financially, or learn vital life-preserving skills through the Red Cross. And whereas in Amador County, the contributions of local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families devastated by local disasters like wildland fires, home fires, snow events, trees into homes, and donated essential blood for accident and burn victims, heart surgery and organ transplant patients, and those receiving treatment for leukemia, cancer, or sickle cell disease, supporting service members and veterans, along with their families and caregivers, through the unique challenges of military life, helping to save the lives of others with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering international humanitarian aid. And whereas their work to prevent and alleviate human suffering is vital to strengthening our community's resilience, we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance the noble legacy of American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, who lived by her words: "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it." We ask others to join in this commitment to give back in our community. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors here this day in March 2022 as Red Cross Month. And thank you very much for being here today. Is there any public comment at this time? Either in the audience or by Zoom? No? All right, thank you very much for being here today. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for all the hard work you do, during the most stressful times. We will move on then to item 4C, continued discussion and possible action relative to the placement and occupancy of recreational vehicles as temporary dwellings. This went to the Land Use Committee, and the Land Use Committee was informed when we went to the Land Use Committee that we actually have some language on the books right now to deal with this situation. So rather than try to recreate the wheel, we wanted to bring this back to the board to look at what we have on the books right now and see if that is satisfactory for the board, or if you want us to take more action based on the language in the El Dorado and Lake County ordinances. Supervisor Axe, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, the only comment I have is, in the memo on the background, item 3, the trailer while building, I think that's what kind of precipitated this. I would be willing to, you know, grant potentially another 6-month, extension, you know, after the 1 year and the first 6 months, if there is progress being made, you know, so give people a chance, especially now with it being so expensive, to build.
I think, Michelle, can you come up for a minute? Is it, the ordinances we looked at, especially El Dorado County, but Lake also made mention that, any approvals like this have to have connections to power and water and wastewater facilities. Is that, the way you read what we have on the books in Amador County also?
Yes, so if those, the trailer while building or the hardship medical trailer, those all get routed through us, and we make sure that they've got adequate sewage disposal system to connect. They're all short-term, so we tend to not beat them up too much if we get a current inspection report and it looks like it can handle. If we went to something more permanent and long-term, since you have me up here, I would suggest that we would follow the lead of the other counties and do something a little more extensive, like perhaps they may need to add to their system. They may need to have its own system, just because if it's longer term, then that is definitely going to tax those septic systems. That would be something I'd have to work out a little bit. But yes, that's how I interpret. Right now, we're routed.
And there's a lot of discretion in these ordinances for our planning director and our environmental health director to look at these approvals and really work with people, try to make their lives easier during stressful times. I don't think it's going to address those people that just want to live in a trailer all the time and not make any progress towards
Correct.
improvements.
And that's where the potential, I think, could be for failing septics and taxing the septic systems from an environmental health perspective.
Yeah, no, I will say, I have no problem with the requirement for electricity, water, sewer. I think there's a number of people, and some still haven't recovered, went through economic hardships, pretty hard. People lost their homes, some still haven't recovered fully. So I'd like to see an allowance made for economic hardship. Also, right now, the price of materials and fixtures is absolutely absurd if you're looking to build a new house. I mean, if you can get some of the appliances, I'm talking to people, they're doing like a remodel in their bathroom, and they wanted to put in this and this and this, and instead they put in that and that and that, and they just couldn't get it. So, yeah, I do like, there should be some oversight to where, I like the El Dorados had something there, people start having junk and garbage and accumulation of stuff, you can say, hey, we're gonna yank your permit if you don't clean it up. Because you don't want to start you don't want to have a temporary RV going next to somebody and become just a junk hole. You don't want that. But it'd be nice to be able to let people have housing of sorts. It may not be perfect, but it's a roof over the head and a place to stay warm.
You know, another possibility is, would the county be amenable to creating a kind of a special type of trailer park where people could camp their trailers and live there, you know, kind of like a mobile home park, but not but these would actually be very mobile homes, and they would potentially be hooked into a septic system. Now, someone would actually have to do that, but that would provide, all of these people living under these circumstances in one area, so it would be easier to manage, from an environmental health point of view, so that they're not going all over the county, because you could have quite a few folks just wanting to live in a trailer on their house, on the property, and they'll, you know, they probably have good intentions to do all the right things, but I just think that it's going to create a real oversight issue, and I don't think we have the staff to handle that.
Well, somebody's gonna have to manage those parks if we put one together. We have
Well,
parks.
it would have to be, it wouldn't be us, it would have to be a private individual that would put it together, and.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. We have parks in the county right now. I know people that have fallen into hard times and either lost the house or something else. What they did is they moved into one of these parks.
Okay.
And they're living, well, they're planning on staying there. They enjoy it. They enjoy the camaraderie with the other people. So while they did lose their home, there are some benefits there, and there's a management facility in place already.
Okay, all right. I'm certainly, I don't know if they're the type that will allow you to just pull up a trailer on wheels and live in that, but I was thinking you might have a facility that would permit that to some extent.
I did like a lot about El Dorado's ordinance. I didn't know if I agreed with it had to be in a paved surface. I mean, gravel's a good surface. Now, maybe I said hard surface, so maybe it wasn't paved, but it appeared to be paved. I have problems having to pave because that gets real pricey. So I'll say this, you know, I travel around a lot through the county, and you see some homes that are derelict mess, regular homes. You see some TRVs, you know, recreational vehicles that are absolute messes. And then you see some homes really nice. And I was up a number of years ago up in Tyler Road, and there was a little trailer house parked back over a hill. And you could tell it was a beautiful spot. And they'd never met the person. They weren't home. But I thought, wow, this is better than a lot of homes I saw. You could tell they loved their spot. They're quite happy. Was it permitted? My guess is probably, I don't know if there's even a septic permit. Maybe, hopefully there was. But it looked like everything was functioning well, and it was a nice little home. So, I mean, and there's a lot of people out there, look at home prices right now. I mean, somebody said the median price of a home in Plymouth is $1 million. That's a lot of money. So yeah, am I looking to have a tent city in Amador County? No. Would I like to be able to have a way we can, people can, survive? Yeah. That's my motive here.
I'm looking so we don't have a case where code enforcement's got to come to us like that we just had to deal with recently, where an individual's living in a trailer and not supposed to be doing that. And he was, it appeared very untruthful about the whole scenario of what happened there. We can let people just live in their trailers, but to me, there's got to be some rules for the health and safety of everybody else too, so that you do have some provisions for water, wastewater.
Oh, I agree.
Trash and everything else. It sounds like one thing you brought up was the oversight of the waste. I would like to give more discretion to staff, even than what's in our little ordinance. Now, our ordinances cover medical hardships, disaster relief, and trailer while building. You brought up the economic issue too.
It's a huge issue.
That's a tougher nut to crack, really. And a lot of those people with the economic issues might have the same problems with tying into a septic or wastewater system.
Then it wouldn't be allowed. But I mean, you drive around the county now, and maybe you don't need an ordinance. I don't know, because there's a lot of them around the county. You see places where people they ran a hose to a house, and they've got a trailer parked somewhere, and you can see they've tapped in the septic. There's quite a few of them around the county, And as long as nobody complains, everybody's happy. If people complain, and then, you know, at some point you're kicking somebody out of their house.
Well, from the committee side, what I heard you say then is the oversight of the waste and probably more discretion to staff.
Yeah.
I would support that, and I would also support that extension on the build, not as much because of the cost of material, as being able to get it.
Timing nowadays is incredible.
The hotel in Sutter Creek, the Cato Inn or something, is 4 months behind because they couldn't buy 20 toilets. They did the complete remodel of half of it, and everything but the toilets, but that's a big problem.
That'd be a problem.
It was a big problem. So that, even though if he had a permit for a year, say, he would be not in compliance and nothing he could do about it.
And the committee can look at the, Lake County. Lake County's is a lot shorter. I'd rather keep ours shorter than the long document that El Dorado County has. It's more simple for people to understand what's going on, but I would like to look at the El Dorado County ordinance again from the committee side and try to pick out the gold nuggets there that may be good and meet the goals of what we're hearing today.
And to Supervisor Oneto's point, you had to have it on asphalt. That's the last thing you do when you build a house, is pave the road. So any hard surface, the definition of that should be pretty flexible.
If I may suggest, you know, since a lot of this is in conjunction with a home being built, you know, you always have to, you know, whenever you extend the building permit, because, you know, you have a year on your building permit, if you have to extend it, that would, you know, we could make it somewhere and incorporate it into getting authorization to extend your building permit for temporary housing.
And would there be an allowance for like an economic need? I think that's really critical, I think, in this whole deal.
Well, that's defining that. I mean, you're talking about while they're building the house?
No. And it's because I've seen a number of these where people have a TRV, and it's really not it's a place I wouldn't mind living in. And maybe next door there's a permitted home that is a junk heap. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, one is really, hey, it's pretty well kept, it's in good shape, and one is a permitted home I wouldn't want to live next to, but so be it. So, I mean, you're kind of looking at it. There's some houses out there, you know, traveling around. You see they're pretty unkept, almost abandoned. So it's not like a home is perfect and a trailer is a junk heap. Sometimes the trailers are pretty nice and the house is pretty rough. So I'm just looking at it's an economical way for people to have a home.
But you're talking, they may want to live there for years that way.
It's something that would be at staff's discretion. And if they have a pretty nice, it's like the place I saw in Fiddletown. It was a nice spot.
How are you going to define that, Supervisor?
And that is kind of, I guess, an issue, Pat. I mean, you want people living there for 40 years.
Let me see your tax return kind of thing, yeah.
I don't have a problem, Supervisor Ornetto, doing the trailer while building and extending that, giving our staff discretion to extend that year after year. But, you know, as long as you see some progress going on, I don't want to tell people you can live in that trailer forever.
That's what I don't want.
That's not I don't think that's what we want in the county, and I don't think that's the intent of any of these ordinances from any of the counties.
Not forever, no. I mean, El Dorado's had a 3-year time limit. I don't know if that was a 3-year time limit as far as getting the permit, or they're no longer valid after 3 years.
That's after a hardship, though, after a fire or something like that.
I think it was even economic. It talked about COVID, so that would be economic.
Okay, and COVID is a different issue. I understand that. When you're talking about extraordinary situations, I would agree. It throws people's life in a whirlwind, and we got to try and help them. But if you tell a person that comes in to say, I want to live in a trailer while I'm building my house, that they can live in that pretty much forever, that's what they're going to do.
most people want a home, but, yeah.
Nowadays, I would say people, they probably would prefer a home, but if they can get away with living in a trailer, that's probably gonna be acceptable for a long time. I wanna provide an incentive for them to build the home, but be accommodating so that they have a place to stay while they're making progress.
And there's that, and I'll say one problem I see now is you look at the price of a home, I'm hearing, $250 a square foot is probably not realistic, maybe, more like 300 a square foot or more, so you figure you want to build, say, 1,500 square feet, not the infrastructure, just the house itself, you're looking at $450,000. That's a lot of money. So can I see people wanting to live in a trailer house for a while they're saving money to build a house? Yeah, I can. Or just having a place to live.
What's for a while?
Look at the homeless we got. We got a bunch of them. A lot of that's mental health.
What is for a while? I think the committee needs to know that.
One thing I may add is Amador Water Agency is now requiring $25,000 to hook into their system on a new parcel.
I didn't get an answer to what's a while.
You know, I understand where you're coming from. I look at some of those places. That one in Fiddletown has been there, I think it's been there probably 20 years. Person has a house, they can afford it. They have a house, they can afford it, they're happy. Well-kept place. And I don't know, it's a hard question. There's a gentleman, his first name's Leland. And not Leland that runs around Jackson, but this guy's name's Leland. Through the economic hardship, lost his home. He's got a lot up near Amador Pines. Reason he bought it, he didn't have much money. He bought it because it has water, power, and sewer. So he had hooked RV into that. Somebody complained. So he says, I had to move the RVs out, like a trailer house. So I think the gentleman may have started living in a shed, and I think some of the county staff said, well, what's that shed there for? And he's a very honest guy. He says, well, that's where I'm living now. Well, he can't live there now. He said, I don't have no place to go, really. So I guess you can go, you look at the rent in this county, rents are exorbitantly high. So where's that guy gonna go? Maybe he can find a spot at a trailer park and go move into a trailer park. But he's got a lot that's paid for, has water, power, and sewer, and he can't stay on it. So it's just, I understand the desire not to have trailer houses all over the county. I can understand that to a certain degree. Because you want to keep things aesthetic and all, but some of these houses I see around the county, they're not very aesthetic in everybody's district. But I know it's a hard question.
Well, the committee will look at all these along with the economic, Supervisor Axe, any further comments?
Well, I think if somebody is falling on economic hard times, maybe they should move to an apartment, and maybe we need to have more of that type of housing available for people to move to. I understand they might own a piece of property, but maybe that's not the solution, because it's really hard to regulate that. If there's a clear time frame, like a year or two, that's fine, but I think, you're right. I mean, it's very expensive. Housing has gotten out, and that's why we have a homeless problem. It's not just mental health. A lot of people lost their homes because they can't make enough money to pay for a home. And so, they need, affordable housing, and affordable housing is apartments, or.
Even apartments aren't affordable anymore.
Well, there's ways to build them, and there's ways to even subsidize them. That's, you mentioned what was the plan. Well, the plan from the state was to build more affordable housing.
And this man happens to be a brick mason, so if you're a brick mason, you probably have your mixer to make hod. Mm-hmm. You probably have bricks you keep for a job. If you're in an apartment, I guess you got to find a place to store that stuff somewhere. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a way.
You could store it on this property there. It's just that, you know, if it was just this one person, then that's probably okay. But, you know, once you open the door, then I think other people are gonna wanna take us up on the opportunity. That's why I was thinking, you know, if there was a place where people could live in trailers, you know, in one area that's, you know, planned to a certain extent, I could go along with that. I think that would be an okay thing.
I think there's a lot of people living in trailers right now,
Probably.
and maybe, I guess, yeah, if somebody's living in a trailer like that guy was and nobody complains, no harm, no foul, and maybe that's a situation all over the county, but I'll take some neighbor that doesn't like a trailer, and then what is happening, many places, it becomes a problem in one place.
Well, for the most part, it's complaint-driven now, whether that's fair or unfair. We're not sending our staff out to look for trouble in the county. The economic issue is a hard one to crack. We'll take that back to the committee and look at it.
Okay.
There are some things that are in the El Dorado County ordinance. We're trying to keep it, I want to try to keep it simple, so it's, understandable for people. To me, the El Dorado County ordinance, while it's comprehensive, it's pretty onerous, and a lot of paperwork there.
Well, that's El Dorado County.
Let's take it to public comment at this time. Is there any public comment on this issue? Actually, we'll take it back to staff at this time first.
Chuck Beatty, Planning Department again. I just want to make sure what the direction to staff is. It sounds like you want to keep this in the Land Use Committee for a while and then come back to the full board with a resolution of intent once you know specifically what you want to change.
Well, we have an ordinance on the books. It sounds like we just want to look at that and possibly make a few modifications to it.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got options to change all three of these options that are in the code now, but it sounds like there may be another option. We're having an RV on a piece of property that doesn't meet one of these three scenarios.
Possibly.
Right.
And looking back at the Lake County and El Dorado County ordinances again, and seeing if there's anything we want to incorporate back in our ordinance. I think ours can possibly have a few changes to make it more understandable, and we're talking about giving staff a little bit more discretion on this too. So I have a list of what I think was said. If we can go back to land use and talk about this, then hopefully we can make a better ordinance for Amador County.
Okay.
Any comments, Chuck?
One more thing too, I think maybe if you could put a size, you know, parcel size, that might be helpful, a little more space. So I think I saw somewhere 1 acre or larger.
Mr. Chairman, we do have someone on Zoom whenever you're ready for that.
Okay, I have, I think Ms. LeBanco wanted to say something first in the audience here. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Jamie LeBanco, District 5, Fiddletown, Tyler Road. Not living in a trailer there, but it does sound lovely because it is lovely on Tyler Road. A couple quick thoughts I just wanted to add to the conversation. You were talking about costs involved right now in building a home and getting supplies. I think you have to also realize that the cost of an apartment and the cost of even purchasing a trailer are really exorbitant right now. We're trying to purchase a trailer for our son in college so he can live in a trailer park in San Luis Obispo because you can't find a place down there to live either. And it's hard to find a trailer for less than $40,000 right now. So I think that's just in your train of thought about cost. Contractors are probably a bigger issue, even, or at least an equal issue. I know in Napa right now, their fires, you know, they've had fires 3-4 years ago, and they still can't get contractors out to rebuild these homes. So I think you would really want to take into consideration not even just the supply chain issues and the cost, but if a person is making a good faith effort to even get a contractor out to start their project, I think that's important to acknowledge. Also with paved surfaces, getting a contractor to come and pave your surface for your trailer would be really difficult. I'm married to a contractor. I know what that workload is looking like right now. So, and then I had a question about EDUs, because I know that right now we're allowing EDUs for homes. And if your home burns down and you have to rebuild, can you build the garage and that accessory unit before you build the home? I don't know how that works, but maybe that's a possibility for how someone like your friend who you said he was staying had a shed or a garage or something. Maybe that
Wasn't necessarily a
exception.
friend, just a constituent.
Gotcha. Anyways, my thought when you mentioned that was that if a person could actually get a smaller portion of their project built quicker, like a garage with an apartment above or a barn.
I will say, I told my son a while back, I said, Ben, my advice is if you build a house, build your garage or build your barn first. So I agree.
Anyways, those were just my thoughts, but I really think the most important one is to recognize that getting a building contractor right now to build a home anywhere in the state of California is really probably a couple years out. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, can you address that? Can a person simultaneously build a home with the accessory dwelling unit?
They can. We've seen several building permit applications come in since the county adopted the state mandated ADU rules where people are applying for both at the same time. And with the idea that they'll live in the smaller unit until the main house is complete. The one issue with doing that in advance, if you just want to build the accessory unit first, is a county code requires that the primary dwelling on the property be at least 800 square feet. So an 800 square foot apartment above a garage is not always feasible. People typically want it to be smaller than that. That's one issue. That's one code item, that 800 square foot minimum, that will probably be addressed through the housing element, because it can be prohibitive and a deterrent to housing development. But the short answer is yes, you can build it first, and then you can either convert or have it as a second unit once the main house is done.
Can the accessory dwelling unit be a prefab house, like a tiny house?
If it's built first, because that first house has to be at least 800 square feet. If it's built afterwards, then it could be smaller than 800. It could be a tiny house.
So the accessory dwelling unit has to be 800 square feet?
If it starts as the primary dwelling on the house.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, that's one of those things that'll be addressed through the housing element, because that does become a deterrent to housing development.
Okay.
Ms. Lebenko?
I apologize, Jamie Lebenko again. The other note I made here that I think is important to note is that the Far Horizons 49er Park in Plymouth has a significant number of folks living there right now that have come out of the Grizzly Flat fire areas. I don't know how they're possibly affording it, but the whole north side of the park appears to be people who are there long-term at this point.
It's very full when I drive by. I've never seen it that full.
Yeah, there's also, I think up in Diamond Springs, there's a park up there that I know a person inquired about joining Rotary, and they were from the Caldor area, so I know there's a population up there that is from the Caldor fire. I'm from Grizzly Flat, excuse me. So we have someone on Zoom?
Yep. Go ahead, Linnell, when you're ready.
Okay, this is Linnell Raymond from River Pines. And just addressing this issue, my heart goes out to a lot of people who are in need of housing. However, what we're seeing in our area is that trailers are being moved in unpermitted on lots and with no avenue to use the sewer system. I personally have witnessed people taking their sewage out of their trailer and dumping it in the river. So I just think that for a community like River Pines, we have small lots. Our water and sewer system will not handle any more residents. LAFCO has made it perfectly clear on their latest report that we cannot extend any more housing units than what is currently allowed. So, you know, I don't know what to tell, you know, folks that are in, you know, hard times right now. I know personally, we have been in that situation and it isn't easy, but we also have to look at other people and what they're, you know, how that's going to impact a community. Brian mentioned something about a 1 acre minimum, and I think that is definitely something to be looked at. So thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to that person's comment, wastewater is a big issue for any kind of building and development in the area. And right now, we've had a long-term issue with wastewater due to, kind of an entity that, works in this county or exists in this county that basically doesn't want to get along and help other people in other jurisdictions in the county. And I think that really needs to be addressed because wastewater is a big, big problem. You can't build apartments and you can't do any of these other things, these other types of housing that people need. You know, if it's on septic, that's one thing, but I think we all are aware of, what I'm talking about between, City of Sutter Creek, Ione, and Mule Creek. And I think Mule Creek is the issue.
Oh, I agree 100%, Frank. And if it was anybody but the Mule Creek prison, you'd have the water board all over them with fines and threats and you name it. So yeah, that's a sore subject.
Okay. Well, agenda is that for the future off?
We need to.
Mr. Chairman, we do have someone else on Zoom.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Cindy, when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Cindy Grandvoice. I'm a resident of the county. And I do have one concern that I would like addressed about the 1 acre requirement for somebody putting a trailer up if they've been burned out or something. And that would be, is that penalizing someone for not having the resources in the beginning to buy more than an acre? If they're already under a financial hardship of losing their home to a fire or whatever the situation is, are they being further penalized for not having the funds to begin with?
That's always a problem of a person being able to afford getting into something that they can't afford to begin with. So
true.
I don't know if we can cover that necessarily with, that's why I don't want that situation to be covered by the economic language. Because you can't, somebody goes into a property and they really couldn't afford it to begin with. I don't know if we should be trying to make it, trying to cover for them with language in our ordinance to cover for economic hardship. Do you agree with that or not?
I think also, you're also talking about where there's existing homes too, correct?
I'm talking about in general. If a person goes into a place that they haven't really factored out what it's going to cost for them to either build a home or live there in general.
There's people have factored out what they thought their costs were, and the last couple of years have kind of blown up a lot of factors.
Costs outrun what they.
Oh, big time. I mean, I was talking to one person, and they got a loan to build a house, and they're having problems because what they figured to what it is changed drastically cost-wise.
You're talking about because of extraordinary situation, because of COVID. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people that way before COVID that went into a situation that was basically out of their realm. I think more what Cindy's talking about, pre-COVID, and but not due to extraordinary situation.
This ordinance, I think, also would cover places that are being placed as an existing home, correct? So it's a way where somebody somebody can say, hey, you know, sometimes you see older people, one of them passes away, so they lose a good chunk of their income. And all of a sudden, they're saying, hey, where can I move to finish my life out? I think find an apartment, fine, but maybe you can't. So a lot of times family members will say, you know what, grandma or grandpa, bring your RV down and park next to my house, and it's a place for them to live. Or, you know, like I got my grandma living with us. We're fortunate enough to have a spare bedroom. So she can move in, but if you don't have a spare bedroom and maybe you got kids, where do you put grandma or grandpa? Well, you can put them right next door. We keep an eye on them, and not a bad situation, and it's affordable. That's all I'm trying to look at is way where people can have a place.
All right.
And I understand the issues. You know, you have people can move in a trailer house and live in it 40 years and pile up 40 years of junk, which you can have in a trailer house, or you can also have in a regular home. But I understand there's an aesthetic part. Some people don't like a trailer house next to them. I get it. I don't disagree with them, but I'm also looking at, we got homeless people too, and I don't want to see more.
All right, so, we'll send this back to the Land Use Committee.
Yes.
For more continued discussion, and then bring it back to the board. Okay? We'll move to the minutes quickly, and, I have quite a few corrections on, a couple areas of the minutes. One of them is, the discussion on, tree mortality. Most of them are just, name missing here or there. And then the other was on the discussion on the environmental health, public discussion on page 8. I have quite a few changes there, and the name was incorrect and this and that there.
Yeah, a couple changes too, so I'll turn them in, nothing major.
I turned mine in.
Okay, if you could all submit your changes, nothing major, I take it, so, right? So
Yeah,
can
they
I
were
get,
kind of typos and, yeah, just
yep.
little things. I circled them.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We will we will recess until 10:30 and come back for our 10:30 public hearing. 10:30 public hearing. From our planning department, consideration of the planning commission's recommendation to approve a zone change ZC-21 and 7-1 from the H Highway Commercial District to PD Plan Development District in conjunction with an application for a use permit UP-21 and 7-1 for commercial storage facility and residential use. The APN number is 003-460-044. With that, Mr. Beatty, your staff report.
Thank you, Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. As you mentioned, the applicants have requested to rezone a 12.9 acre parcel from highway commercial to planned development. The proposed use of the property is a commercial storage facility that would include mini warehouses and an outdoor RV and boat storage area, as well as a single family residence. The highway commercial zoning district is not compatible with the special planning area general plan designation for the property, and the use of the both commercial and residential use of the property would necessitate the use permit. So the only way to get there was to rezone the property to planned development. Planned development either requires that you submit a use permit for specific uses or a master plan for long range uses. And Kirkwood's always the example I use for a property that's a specific plan, a special planning area with a master plan. And in this case, it's just for specific uses for that residence and the commercial storage facilities. Just to be clear, the Planning Commission did approve the use permit and then recommended that the board approve the zone change. Without the zone change approval, then the use permit would not be valid. Planning Commission's recommendation is that you approve the zone change subject to the conditions and findings that are included in the staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I do have a question. On reading through and this looks like a good project for the area, but reading through the documentation, it came from our Department of Transportation and Public Works, Valerie Villa, and this had to do with Mr. Gardner's statement that typically with these kind of storage facilities, they do generate some trash as the nature of the business. And they wanted a condition added. The owner is responsible to clean up trash and debris along the property fronting Comanche Parkway North, including the area within the county right-of-way. It looks to me like that condition was not added. I know in the environmental document it said that there was no impact.
Putting that condition to clean up trash along the county right-of-way puts a requirement on the property owner to clean property that's actually not theirs. We did discuss at length whether or not dumpsters will be provided on site, they would be locked. There would be trash receptacles inside the buildings, but not an availability for anyone who either abandons the storage facility or cleans it out to leave their belongings on site.
Okay, that's the only problem that was cited by Mr. Gardner, though. Sometimes there's an accumulation of trash and too much, and county's already dealing with enough trash on our roads and along our roadways. We don't need any more. So hopefully the dumpster is sufficient to handle any amount of garbage that comes from those storage facilities when people move out. I hope.
That's my understanding. The dumpsters will be locked. They're not there for the renters of those storage facilities to use to dispose of their belongings when they vacate the premises.
Just wanted to bring it up because I saw it was a request from our department. Any other board comments? And at this time, we'll open the public hearing and ask for any comments. Mr. Peters, do you want to lead off here? Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robin Peters with Delta Engineering. The Planning Commission, as staff indicated, has approved the use permit. This is a pretty straightforward self-storage and outdoor boat and RV storage facility, conveniently located very close to the Comanche North Shore entry. So it's anticipated that in addition to serving existing demand for self-storage, which is pretty significant already, It will also service the need for boat storage and other recreational vehicle and apparatus storage near the lake. Relatively straightforward project, rather small as these go, with opportunities for expansion. With respect to the trash question, we have addressed that and discussed it in some detail. These facilities do generate trash, and trash can be an issue, but these facilities are entirely fenced, so fugitive trash, in other words, trash leaving the site, is pretty unusual. It's usually caught inside the facility by the fencing. So it's very unusual to have trash migrate off of the property. So that's one of the reasons a concern about maintaining the cleanliness of the right-of-way really isn't much of an issue.
Yeah, even if if people haul it off, I want to take into the landfill, not alongside the road someplace, but you can't control that.
Yeah,
Property owner can't control that. And this is the Comanche project, not the Clements project, correct?
Yes, yes, it would be a typo. Happy to answer any other questions.
Do you know what type of fencing you're gonna put on the facility?
Not yet. There may be a combination of block walls and fencing. The owner hasn't decided yet, but there is a condition that requires that
screening.
Yes, screening and mitigation for aesthetics. So that has to be taken into consideration.
Is there gonna be like razor wire or anything like that?
Razor wire, yeah, no.
Okay.
There will be security cameras. This did come up with the planning commission. There will be a security system that monitors the site.
Okay.
And there will be site lighting, again, for security purposes. Security at these self-storage facilities is a big problem, and it's always has to be dealt with by the owners. I work on some facilities in Calaveras County that are constantly battling security problems. So it's a big deal.
The lighting, will it be motion or will it be constant, do you know?
We anticipate it in the evenings, it will be constant, but down shielded, there's a condition that requires that it be shielded and pointed downward so that it doesn't bother the neighbors.
I noted that in the mitigation and monitoring report, because I'm looking at the proposals that were in the dark sky ordinance, and this already has it, has to comply with county regulations, but also includes measures to reduce light and reflectance, including limitation of all installed lighting. With this project, a full cutoff, fully shielded fixtures directed downwards with color, correlative temperature less than a certain amount. So it looks like, as you say, there might be motion sensors, but some of them are going to be constant but facing downward.
Correct.
Yeah, and I've got no problem with those conditions.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's pretty standard now in the industry. Almost all commercial development requires that type of lighting, and in some jurisdictions, it's even more strict than that, so it's very common.
I think, Supervisor Crew, you've talked to some of your electrical contractors, and all of them say it's pretty much in code now that things have to comply with those regulations.
Right. Yeah. And the cost is coming down to.
Yeah.
There won't be another choice in 3 to 5 years.
Every time the building code comes out, every 3 years, those things are ratcheted up a little bit more, and the California Green Code is becoming, hyper-focused on things like power consumption and conservation, and both on the power and the water side. So, yeah, it's the way of the world in California right now.
I had another question, probably for Mr. Beatty. Thank you, Mr. Peters. Is it on page 148 of the document, tribal cultural resources? Seems like this one tribe is always the one that makes a comment. Our local tribes, do they defer to
Auburn,
our United Auburn Indian community?
Auburn is usually the first to comment on a project, but this has been a relatively new phenomenon over the last couple of years, but they, on many projects, have deferred that consultation to another tribe. Typically, I own.
Another question I have is on California Department of Transportation. This is not even a road, it's all county roads, so why do they even make their statements that they make in their letters that they send out? Doesn't really affect, Caltrans right-of-ways at all, does it?
Not in this case, and we get a lot of comment letters from Caltrans that say, thanks for the opportunity to comment, we have no comment. When it's,
Well, they talk about outdoor advertising. If it, I mean, it's way out in Comanche, and no outdoor advertising is gonna be seen by anybody on Highway 88. So I guess they gotta do something with their time, but this seems pretty ridiculous to me. Their letter should have been straightforward. Caltrans has no comments based on, there's no impact. I think there's 2 or 3 letters in here from Caltrans, so. All right. Any other comments, gentlemen? Mr. Peters, anything else? Okay, is there any public comment at this time? No? Nobody on Zoom? And so with that,
Move to close public hearing.
Second?
moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And now the motion on this, project.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance approving the zone change from highway commercial to planned development zoning districts, and also adopt the findings.
Okay.
Moved by Supervisor Onato, second by Supervisor Crew. If I could make a comment just from representing the area, I think I still do represent that area, so.
You do.
I was wondering why, Mr. Lyons didn't do something like this a long time ago. It's an ideal place for a project like this, so I'm happy to see, something like this being done. With that, been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
And with that, I believe we are complete with our meeting today. We finished all the closed session items, so thank you all for being here, and this meeting is adjourned.